If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need in one place. In fact, this season of Millennial and Pregnant was produced and hosted on Anchor. Here's what I love about it. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. This made it easier for me to edit my episodes on the go. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, I'm Fatima.
I'm Brian, and you're listening to Millennial and Pregnant.
As we begin our journey through our first pregnancy, we wanted to share our experience. We pre-recorded episodes for this close-ended series. Spoiler alert, it ends with us having a baby.
And if you're looking to get pregnant, are pregnant, or just want to have a good laugh with us, then this podcast is for you.
We understand that every pregnancy is unique and has its own story. Here's ours.
Hey guys, so you made it to our last episode of the series. Thank you so much for getting to this point with us.
Yay.
In our last episode, we're going to talk about some of the things Fatima didn't mention about her recovery, which I think a lot of people, they always want to tell you all the good things that happens. And I feel like I don't want to say the bad things, but some of the not so good things aren't really discussed. The challenges
you have with your recovery.
aren't really discussed as much. Sleep deprivation, because we haven't mentioned it enough. Some of the things, just having a baby, you realize that it's more about figuring out what they like and what they don't like. But we will end with a positive and talk about what we love so far about being a parent. So in terms of recovery, Fatima.
Yeah, and I think we kind of wanted to highlight this a little bit more when I had one of my friends that came over for dinner recently, and she was super curious. She was probably one of the most curious about my recovery process and what happened after you give birth. She's like, they tell you about the pregnancy, they tell you about how painful delivery is going to be, so kind of tell me what happened in like the first few weeks of you recovering. And I think she was sensitive about it too. When we first gave birth, she gave us a little space and stuff, because I think she kind of probably expected that it would be a little more difficult. So as I was telling her, and I kind of was doing it all in a joking manner, because now when you look back on it, you're like, haha, that is pretty funny. When you're going through it, you're like, oh my God, dang, they did not tell you this was going to happen. And so the biggest thing that I was telling her about was just the whole routine about going to the restroom. So something that they just don't tell you, whether you're going to have a vaginal birth or C-section, you're going to bleed. And it's going to be like, a period that lasts 6 weeks. And it's pretty heavy too. It's like the first day first night that right after you give birth, when I went to the bathroom, they had to weigh how much I was bleeding to make sure that I was not hemorrhaging or anything like that. So that was a huge deal, and they wanted to keep an eye on it. So that's what happens when you're in the hospital. So, and that continues even later. Once they figured, oh, okay, you're fine, it's just blood, that's just what's going to happen for you, because you haven't had your period for God knows how long. So
9 months.
Yeah, God does know how long. Everyone knows how long you haven't had it.
8 months.
So something I prepared. I looked this stuff up. Even with looking it up, I didn't quite understand to figure out like just how much and how annoying this was going to be.
Because you're like, get this product and get this product. This will help you. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this.
You have, your overnight giant ass pads that you have to wear. Yeah. I got me some granny panties. So that was kind of like my compromise. I was going to do the giant overnight pads with my granny panties, because a lot of people say, oh, you can just use like Depends or something, like use the adult diapers. It's much easier. Yeah, it might have been easier, and it probably would have kept things in there, but I wanted to feel a little bit as normal as I possibly can right after you give birth. And nothing is quite normal about a 29-year-old, 28-year-old wearing an adult diaper. So I was like, no. So I went and I got me the full coverage. Like, it's covering everything. It goes up to your boobs. Like, it is, nothing is getting out of these panties.
I know. I remember going to Marshall's and we're like, we need to find some granny panties.
So, you know, I got those. I got the overnight pads, and you're changing those like constantly, even though they're good for like overnight. You're changing them because you're bleeding so much, especially in the first week and the first 2 weeks. You're constantly changing it, and it kind of tapers off, and you can move to maybe your smaller pad, or you're not changing the pad as often if it's not soaked through. But that was a big eye opener. And then, you know, when you're pushing and you're pretty much bearing down like you're using the bathroom, you're getting things called hemorrhoids. So that was also, you know, and that's also something that you have to deal with. So, you know, you put your pad on, you got your hemorrhoid little pads with the witch hazel that's on them. Then you have, you know, the sprays to make sure everything else is comfortable. And then you can't wipe down there for a little bit after you've given birth. So you have to use like a purry bottle that you're squeezing water every time you use the bathroom. So it was a fiasco. It was like such a production just to go to the bathroom. And, you know, I was telling her, like, I had all my products just kind of laid down on right next to the toilet. I was like, I have no shame. I'm not going underneath the sink to constantly get what I need. I just need it all there and ready for me. And so she was like, thank you. She's like, you're being honest about like the process, and like, you know, I had no clue you would have to bleed that much and all the other stuff and things that can happen from having to push and getting hemorrhoids and the pain that you might feel afterwards. And we discussed with breastfeeding in the last episode about your uterus contracting, and it just she was really intrigued by it. And I think it's because it's just not a lot of things out there that talks about it. And we talked about in the last episode too, with, you know, when you're deciding to breastfeed and how your breast get engorged. I talked to people who hadn't breastfed either. You do feel some discomfort in your breast, but it's not half as bad as breastfeeding. So I think those are the biggest things. Am I missing anything?
All on top of, you know, your hormones. Going wild.
Oh my god.
So
yeah, I think anything. I cried a couple of times, and I was just like, what? And Brian was really good with making sure that he was paying attention to all my symptoms to make sure that my crying wasn't a little bit more. I didn't feel you know, it was just kind of like, it was more of a mood swing that I was going through. But obviously it could get worse, and from some people do experience the postpartum depression, so that's also something that you want to keep in mind. So I think there's a lot of information about that and warning about that, and not so much about the physical aspect of it. And another thing I didn't really tell her too is that I really felt like my legs, like I felt like I couldn't move as quickly as I wanted to move, and my legs just felt so heavy. It's just, you know, I was still moving slow even after I had given birth, because Brian started getting real frustrated with me walking down the street because I would walk so slow because I just couldn't move fast enough. And so,
like, you're not coming to the store with me
because it would be on sale, and because it'd be like I'm taking like double the amount of time just to walk to the store. But I still was feeling that after I had given birth. I still needed to take it a lot easier. And they even say it too, like, and it's going to help with the bleeding stuff if you don't move as much. Like, don't think you can just go back to how you were before. There are a lot of people who have to, because they have to go back to work and they don't have the privilege of having paternity leave. But if you still need to go back to work, make sure you're just taking it a little bit easier, because it's a lot on your body. Like, and I think Ali Wong, we watched the
both
stand-up.
of her Netflix specials.
We watched the stand-up like probably a week
I think it was
or so
her newest,
after.
the latest one.
The latest one, and she was spot on. So if you need even a more comedic relief over it, everything she's telling you is true. It's so true. So you watch it, and then if you give birth and you want to just remind yourself again, watch it again, and you'll probably laugh even harder.
Yeah, because we watched it a week or two after Liam was born, and it was just so much funnier because you're like, oh my God.
I'm going through exactly what you're talking about. Yep. And she talks about those like netted underwear that you can only find in the hospital. Yep, I wore those. I was like, I'm just gonna wear these, whatever. I just need to experience it all.
Yeah.
But then once I got home, I put on those granny panties that I purchased, which I still love.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, on top of everything else, we were sleep deprived. So that just added another layer to your own recovery. And, you know, I think in the first episode we were saying of this finale, we were saying that we were just so wired in like the first 2 weeks.
You're
that
just
you just
so happy.
You're so happy. You're like, I just want to stare at you.
Yep.
You're our latest binge watch while you're sleeping, while you're awake, everything. And then it's like it starts to really hit you that, oh my God, I'm not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And what we should have been doing sooner is sleeping when he was sleeping in the very, very early stages, which we've eventually started to do more of that. But it's just so hard to fall asleep like in the middle of the day. Oh my God. Even when you're so tired.
They tell you that they sleep when he's sleeping, but you know, me and Brian, we would take breaks and we would take a nap. And sometimes I would walk, sometimes it would be successful and I would fall asleep, but sometimes I would walk out or you would walk out the room and be like, I can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. You can like kind of close your eyes, but you don't get as much rest or what you really need when you fully go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we talk about taking breaks. And why did we have to take a break? Because our child didn't want to sleep anywhere else except for in our arms. So, and that was something that some of the nurses had warned me about. And my mom had mentioned it too. She said, you know, she had, you know, I've quite a few siblings. And she said, you know, I had a couple of kids who just hated the crib. You know, you go and put them down and they just didn't like it. Eventually we got used to it and eventually we would go into the crib. But she's like, sometimes that happens. Like the baby would rather be in your arms. And so that was Liam. He loves to be in our arms. And so we would have to take breaks sleeping, not just during the day, but at night as well. Because we would be able to successfully get him down first time.
Yep.
Swaddle him up.
Sleep for an hour, hour and a half.
So we'd both be sleeping at that time. And then
this is great.
And then we had to take shifts.
Yep.
You know, I would probably take the first shift because most likely he's waking up because he's hungry. And then Brian would take the second shift.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how we lived for the first month and a half, pretty much, because he just really didn't want to sleep anywhere else besides holding him.
Yeah, because at first we thought maybe he's just not being able, maybe he's just a bad sleeper. But once we started to put him in our arms, he slept for that 4-hour stretch.
Yeah.
And very early on, I'm like, so you can sleep at night.
Because we thought it was because of the breastfeeding. We thought because he needed to be breastfed or he wanted to constantly eat. But then we saw that he wasn't getting up to eat as long as he was being held. And so we were on the search for something that was going to help us.
Yeah, and one of these one of the last few weeks in June, I was just up with him. He was sleeping in my arms. I was so sleep deprived. I'm just searching around, and I found something called the snoo, and it's basically a night nanny.
I remember when you told me the next morning. He tells me, he's like, "So I did something." I was like, "What?"
It's an investment. So
he's like, the snoo, it's coming on July something. I forget whatever date. And I was like,
July 3rd.
Because I had I saw what the price was. I was like, what? What are you
it's
talking
expensive.
About? And he's like, it's a 30, he's like itching.
It's 30% off.
It's a 30-day trial. Well, if we don't like it, we can send it back. I just needed to try it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm just as sleep deprived as you. I didn't order no expensive device to have him sleep. And I was like a little iffy about it. And I'm reading all these reviews even before it came. And then that thing has been a godsend.
After maybe 4 days of him getting used to it. So basically it's a bassinet. It's a smart bassinet that kind of slightly rocks your baby when he's sleeping. And when they wake up, it responds to them. So the white noise will increase. And it securely swaddles them as well. So it hits almost all the 5 S's, which new parents start to understand what the 5 S's are: swaddle, side stomach, sucking, swinging, and shushing. So read up on it. The guy who came up with that is the guy who created the snoo. And it's been a godsend for us because we do get, he says you get 1 more hour of sleep a night, and we at least get a few more hours.
Yeah.
Every time, he in between.
Every time we put him down.
Wakes up.
Yeah. Had we not been able to feed him, he gets a substantial amount of sleep at night than what he did before.
Yeah. Which now he can go 3 to 4 hours.
Yep, and I think it's
between
really
feedings.
important that what you said before, like the first few days, I was skeptic. I was like, okay, we spent all this money, he's still not sleeping. I just don't understand it. And then one night, he slept for like 4 or 5 hours. I woke up in like a panic because I was like, no way. There's no way. I think we had went to bed. We were still kind of iffy about it, so we still was having him sleep in our arms, and then we went to bed at like 11 midnight or something like that. He was a little fussy. I think he had like a little bit of gas. So we finally had got him down. It was 1 a.m. We didn't wake up until 4 or 5. I was like, this is crazy. I wanted to cry. I felt so awake off of those 4 or 5 hours. I can't even tell you. I felt like a new person.
Yeah.
So and then I was sold, and I was like, we're never returning this. I don't know how I can ever go back to what we were doing before.
Because the goal and the goal of all this was so that he could sleep somewhere else, not in our arms. And so
it's for safety.
And for
because I mean, we both had our experiences where we thought we were holding the baby and we were not holding the baby.
So that was a week or two after, within the first weeks after him being in the SNU.
I think my incident was first.
Your incident was first, and you can.
Yeah, so I had breastfed. I had burped him, whatever. I think I gave him to you to put him back down, and I must have fell asleep because I didn't stand up, so I still was really sleepy. So I fell asleep really quickly, and then I woke up and I just forgot I had given him the baby, and I was like, I wake Brian. I'm like, tap him, Brian.
Yeah,
Brian,
she's tapping me to wake me up.
I was like, wake up, don't go to sleep. Because as I mentioned before in the other episode, I would have him stay up with me because I had an issue with falling asleep in the first month and a half. So so Brian was like, what? I was like, don't go to sleep. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm feeding the baby. Make sure you don't go to sleep.
It was what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? What? You're interrupting my sleep.
Yeah.
You're not Liam. You don't get to do that.
He's like, he's in the SNU. I was like,
he is in the SNU.
I was like, I thought I was holding him. Oh my God.
Meanwhile, she's laying down.
Okay, my whole excuse was that I talked about this too. Like, I had like these engorged breasts for however long. They had his own heartbeat. I almost felt like he was on me because it was like I felt something. It was just my boobs pulsating from all the milk in it because it was engorged with milk because I'm used to feeding him every hour to going 4 hours without feeding him. But then you told me.
And then it was like a week or two after that, I like wake up in a panic. I look at Fatima, who she had just fed him. And this was the point where he was going back into the SNU, so I didn't have to stay up with her. And I wake up in such a panic, and I just like start like rummaging through the sheets, like because I heard a noise, and I'm rummaging through the sheets, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, my heart is going to burst out of my chest, and I look over, and he's in the SNU. I thought he was in the bed with us, and I don't know what made me think he was in the bed because at that point I don't think I had put him back in the SNU. It was Fatima.
Yep, I did.
Who put him in the SNU because I was so used to taking him.
Because I would always hand him the baby,
so you always right next to me.
So you always was able to wake up and see him go in there, and then I was like, oh, he's sleeping so peacefully, so I was like, I can put him back in there, and I was able to go back to sleep quickly, and then you woke up in a panic. I think he made
some little noise like and I like woke up thinking, because he was so close to me, I thought it was coming from the bed, and I'm just like rummaging through the sheets, and I'm not like saying anything to you, and you're like, what and I'm like, Liam, where's Liam? But because he was so used to us being in his arm.
We can laugh about it now, but when you're in that moment, we were in a panic, and that just goes to show you just how much of a godsend the SNU was, because had we continued what we were doing for the next month, I'm sure a tragedy or something crazy like that would have happened, because we were just so tired. And so I think when we finally were able to actually get some shut eye and we both woke up in a panic, because we're like, there's no way
he's not in our arms. Where is he?
Yeah, it's like he was like an extra limb to us, and then once he was off of us, we were like, what do we do? So thank you, SNU.
Yeah, and in that whole research of trying to find something to help him sleep, we're like, so are we sleep training him? When do we sleep train? When can we sleep train him? Is he sleep trainable? And there's so many, and so we got this book called the 12 hours sleep by 12 weeks old, which after doing all this research, it's like you can't really sleep train your baby until they're like 12 weeks old.
So it's a book preparing you to how you get the baby to start sleep training.
Yeah.
Really.
So, and so then that was our topic of debate of how and when we should start sleep training the baby. Because he's breastfed, he's not really going to be able to be sleep trainable.
Yeah. I mean,
right now.
Yeah. I think the internet is pretty much split on how people feel really strongly about
on
how to sleep train. And honestly, like breastfeeding and formula fed, do what's right for your baby.
Mm-hmm.
There is a ton of things that, it is kind of a little bit proven that your baby's not able to quite self-soothe until a certain age. And I think you hear people say, I've heard 3 months, I've heard 4 months, I've heard people say 6 months they'll know like once they actually start sleeping. And those are the people who don't believe in sleep training at all. They just kind of let their baby do what they need to do. And I think we were both kind of like in the middle. We were like,
because we knew we don't want him to cry to sleep.
We knew we needed to help him figure out certain things.
Night and day.
Yes. So a big thing is that babies don't know when's night and day. So if you think about it, you're moving around constantly. That's helping, and that's rocking your baby to sleep.
While
so your
you're pregnant.
baby is so your baby's pretty much sleeping in the time period that you're walking around during the day. Then once you go and lay down, and that was a big time, I would be like, Brian, feel my stomach, because as soon as I would lay down, that's when Liam would be like kicking like crazy.
He would be stretching, and I'm like, what is happening in there?
Yep. So, and that's what happens when he comes out. He doesn't know night and day. So there are certain things that can help you and help them figure out night and day, with keeping the lights on, how much noise you're making, to keeping it dim and calm at night. So we knew we needed to teach him that. So we taught him that.
So that was our first step, was trying to figure out night and day, and that kind of led to a more natural way of finding that. I think he sort of got the hang of it, and we didn't really sleep train him. The snoo was a huge help, so maybe that sleep trained him.
Yeah. So we talked to our pediatrician about self-soothing and because even as adults, we wake up in the middle of the night, but we were able to put ourselves to sleep, but he's not able to.
Right.
So the snoo is helping to put him back to sleep.
Unless he's hungry, because it will not put him back to sleep.
Unless he's hungry or uncomfortable, and it could just mean that he just also wants to cuddle. Yeah. Because sometimes that's also an important for a baby, is to have that skin-to-skin contact. So... And the other thing was, the book I talked about was feeding. So that's the big thing was, okay, they're going to wake up because they're hungry. So it's saying try and get the amount of food that they're eating in the daytime, which when you're breastfeeding, it just was a little, the book doesn't quite help you with that, because you don't really know how much they're taking in, and it's kind of hard to force a baby to stay on and eat. Right. It's easy with the bottle because it flows out a little bit quicker and you can keep it up there, but once a baby's done eating on the boob, he's gonna just detach. And Liam he's stubborn. He does not let you force feed him. No. So that was one of the big points. I forget if they mentioned anything else, and then said eliminating night feedings, night and day, feeding
more during the day, and then that you kind of shift over his naps.
Oh! It talks about the toolkit of all the things you need to do because you want to get the kid on a schedule. So if you need to prolong a nap, when they need a nap, when they need to eat, here's some things to kind of help you.
Right. And we hear him, so we're going to take a quick break, see what he wants, and we're going to pick up right where we left off.
So we're back, and we have a guest with us as Brian tries to hold Liam and keep him calm for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, he just learned how to fully roll over by himself. So if we put him down in his gym, he's gonna roll over, but then his neck will get tired and he will cry for one of us to be there. So now he's just going to look at us and with a questioned face.
He's like, what are you guys doing? I've never seen this device out before. Yes, because we do podcasts when you're sleeping.
Yeah. So, we kind of figured out, okay, so for his sleep schedule, he kind of naturally fell into the pattern that I guess we really wanted to get him into. He sleeps more at night than he does during the day.
He knows.
And
Like
not
when
in
I
our
get
arms.
when I get him up for feeding, at night he'll go right back to sleep. Versus during the day, he's like, okay, time to play. Unless he's really tired. I know he's really tired when he goes right back to sleep in the middle of the afternoon. Let's say if he just wanted to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and scream and play. When I say scream, like he literally is just like having a good time. Yeah. So that was really easy. And when we were talking before about the book and the toolkit to help them, it's just, if they're hungry, give them the pacifier if you want to prolong the eating, because you don't want to have to constantly be feeding him, I guess, quote unquote, on demand, because I'm breastfed, but maybe try and get him to every 3 hours at least versus every hour, because it could be a little exhausting. But so that book was semi-helpful.
Yes, it kind of helped give us a sort of a foundation on what, kind of how we want to get his sleep schedule, what the goal was for his sleep schedule. But yeah, so I mentioned that, we could put him in his gym. And so one of the things that we've kind of figured out as parents, and I'm sure all these parents are rolling their eyes because they're like, duh, that having him, we've found out that it's more about trying to figure out what he likes.
Yeah. I think we were really good with this because we were limited in space. We really got a few things. We got some things that we knew because our nephew and nieces might have liked. So we're like, okay, let's try this out at first. So we didn't put too much on our registry and we didn't buy too much. But the little things that we did get, he hated. We had this like soothing swing for him. He went in it maybe a few times. And as soon as he would start to fall asleep in there, he's like, nope, this is not my parents. He's laughing at me. These are not my parents' arms. I want out. So he would scream bloody murder. And this thing was a huge contraption in our tiny living room. So we decided to switch that out for the floor mat, which I'm surprised we didn't have one of those on our registry.
Yes.
Like, I guess I just didn't really see too many people with them. He loves the floor mat. This thing has paid for itself. And he learned how to track toys. He's learned how to roll over, as we mentioned. He loves this thing. He can probably spend like a good hour on that floor mat without having to be picked up by one of us.
Yeah.
So great things. So we switched that thing out.
We have that other tummy time mat, but it didn't have anything above him hanging.
Yes, and he likes to look up.
He loves to. When he loves to look up. And now he's rolling over, so now he's facing down again.
Yeah. So
and then when we're talking about the bottles, figuring out what nipple he likes, and just save all of your receipts, save all anything you get, ask for a gift receipt. This way you can go back and exchange it and try to figure out what they do like.
Yeah, there's a ton of bottles out there that says, oh, so easy for a transition for breastfed to bottle fed for babies. But I found that a lot of them, well, it's not that they're lying. It's just that everyone who's tried to get their breastfed baby onto a bottle has had a struggle of finding which nipple they like more. Hi. So we finally found the Komotomo, which, has the softness, and it has like it kind of mirrors the breast in that he has to latch a little bit.
Right.
So it doesn't give him too much nipple confusion, which you'll hear a ton about when you're trying to introduce a bottle to a breastfed baby, or a nipple preference, meaning, he would like to drink out of the bottle more than the breast. So at this point, I'm just like, just drink. I don't care where you drink from. Please just drink.
I know. And at first, trying to go through all of these different items, we just felt, we talked about this before, but feeling so unprepared, because we felt we were so prepared. We're like, these are the basics, what we need. These are the exact items we need. And he doesn't like anything that the Instagram babies like. So it's like, you're not trendy enough.
No, he's not. And then we talked about I can't talk more about this new, and just kind of trading that in for the crib for now. It only lasts up until he's 6 months. So we're going to savor these next few months. But they do have a weaning function. So, and people have said that it's worked. So we'll just see. He's, once again, he's a stubborn little Taurus. So we'll see if he manages that.
And now he's teething. So
yes.
that has kind of taken up a lot of his time with just shoving his hands in his mouth and chewing on them, and maybe not eating as much as he should be, but eats frequently. And then his mouth will hurt, so then he'll stop eating. And so hopefully we just found this amber necklace that should hopefully relieve him of that. But if you have any tips on teething,
send them our way, please.
Please send them our way. But so, I guess we should wrap up with what we enjoy about being a parent. I'll let you start while I reposition him.
What I enjoy just seeing him explore the world and all the developments that he's been going through, and all the milestones he's been reaching. It's so exciting to see, like, rolling over. I jumped out of the bed when you texted me saying, oh my God, he just rolled over really quickly, and I couldn't get out here fast enough, and then he did it again in a row, and it made me so excited. I'm like, why am I so excited about a child rolling from his back to his stomach? Like, just those little moments that make it so enjoyable. And he's just so cute. Like, I could just stare at his face. Like, when he falls asleep, I find myself looking at photos of him that I took earlier, or looking at him when he's sleeping, especially when he's so calm in my arms, when he's falling asleep in my arms. It's like the most exciting thing ever. And I think that's the thing that makes me so excited about being a parent. It's just enjoying those little things and seeing him grow up and getting excited about things.
Yeah, that's my similar comment, is just being able to watch him grow up, watch him, kind of develop all these different things. Like when he did the rollover, I had just put him down on his mat so I could go to the bathroom really quick, and we could see his mat right from the bathroom. So
yes, we use the bathroom with the door open. So when you have, because I was napping.
And so up until that point, he would just lay on his mat and pull Olivia the owl, or stare at his reflection, or watch the light. But all of a sudden he starts rolling over. Hi, what are you trying to say? And he starts rolling over, and I caught like the last quarter of him rolling over. And I'm like, what did you just do? Because he used to roll over when he was like barely a month old. He would roll over, and I was like, uh-oh, should we be concerned? So then it finally made its reappearance, and now he does it all the time. So I repositioned him, and then he lifted up his feet and did like a tuck and rolled back over again. And that's all he did yesterday, is just roll over. You're no longer interested in the things up above in the gym. But being able to witness those kind of things, and when he smiles and when he laughs for the first time, that was so much fun. And he recognizes our faces all the time now. So now when you say hi, he just looks at you.
Huge grin on his face.
And the challenge is figuring out what the next funny thing is, because when he finds something funny, he'll laugh. He'll go
maybe like once or twice, and then he's like, okay, I'm over it.
And then he's over it.
He's like,
and
do something new.
Yeah, so you got to figure out something else to do. And you finally find those little things, but I can't wait until you have a constant laugh. And I think that develops between 4 and 6 months. So hopefully in the next month we'll see that happen. But now it's just a lot of giggles. It's like,
yeah.
Which are the cutest things in the world. But I can't wait until you find something so funny that you can't stop laughing.
Yeah. It's just watching him grow, and it's an exciting time. And I think it kind of brings you back to less flashier things. You're just it's just this little human growing. Hi. I could have sworn also he said I love you the other day, but
he really did.
Are you giggling at mommy?
You kept saying I love you, and I swear to God, he went,
wish I got it.
I love you. This was a month ago.
Yeah, he hasn't done it again.
And then a week after that, he kept saying, how are you? He goes, how are you? I swear to God. I was in the kitchen.
He does it once, and then he doesn't want to do it again.
And I heard it, and so I ran into the bedroom. I'm like, did he just say, how are you?
Yep.
Oh my God. And he likes to stand up. It's so much fun to watch him grow up, and I think we just both share that. It's like the best thing.
Yeah, he stole mine though. He stole my answer.
Yeah. But is there anything else you want to pass along to our...
No, I think just taking every day at a time, and even when you think they might like something, they're going to change, or that you got them to sleep through the night, the next time they're in the 3 to 4 month regression where they're, their brains are developing so much and they're learning new skills. They can't sleep and they don't want to really eat. They don't want to do anything. So I think it's just going with the flow and just being patient. I think since having him, I learned to be a little more patient. I do think I still need more work on it. I'm sure once he gets to the toddler age, he'll definitely be trying my patience. But I think that's the biggest thing with him. It's just being patient, being observant, and just kind of being his beck and call.
Yeah. Well,
this has been fun. I really enjoyed sharing our experience through pregnancy, through having him.
Yeah. And again, we're just one experience out of, hundreds of thousands of other, we're not the only people who are pregnant and had a baby. So, hopefully you found some kind of golden nugget in our experience that you can take on to your own. Do your research, look up everything, it's all about figuring out. There's no one right way to raise a baby. So don't feel like you have to fall into certain products or certain routines or certain whatever. Do what's right for you, and just know that, again, we are just one experience versus hundreds of thousands of other people, millions of other people who have had kids. So don't take everything we say.
We just enjoyed sharing our story, and hopefully this helps you if you're having a baby soon.
Yeah. So thank you for sticking with us all the way to this point. Fatima's pregnancy has been quite a journey for us, but parenthood is going to be the next exciting adventure. While it's the end of the road for this podcast series, it's not for us. So continue to follow us on Instagram at Lilies and Loafers to keep in touch with us. Send us any tips if you're a parent, or if you're a new parent. If you have questions, let us know. But also check us out at Lilies.
He's telling us we have to go. Check us out at liliesandloafers.com.
We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to our last episode of Millennial and Pregnant.
Head over to liliesandloafers.com to see what we've been up to. Talk to you next time.
You want to say something?
No. Bye-bye.